I feel privileged.
Well, she felt privileged too. They love you to death here.
Oh,
So we're
that's so
doing something a
lovely.
little different, only because I felt like changing things up a little bit and going in a different spot because I needed to be in the right position to do a couple of hours with you on a number of subjects we wanted to share with the audience
Mhm.
that is with us. So I'm going to be looking at this monitor, everyone, and of course the camera is over here with Sarah. Sarah, um, let's do this. Feel free to open up the show by you talking about whatever you want to talk about before I start putting stuff up on the screen and videos that we're going to be using throughout the show today.
Okay. Putting me on the spot.
You know it. You know it.
Today we're going to be talking about um, the cycle of abuse, trauma bonding, and denial. And I think the most important thing to say about denial, first and foremost, is sometimes we don't realize that we are in denial. Sometimes there's a lack of awareness around what we are experiencing. Sometimes there's a lack of awareness around abuse itself. We're not quite sure what abuse is. We're not quite sure of the bounds and limitations of it. And then we go into a relationship or a situation and we're like, I don't really like how this feels. However, we're not 100% sure that it's abuse, that we can leave, that we can stand up for ourselves or put up boundaries around it. And that's usually because we've been targeted in a way because of how we may respond to what is happening. And that means that, unfortunately, I have said this before, but we do have a little bit of a sign up on our head saying, you know, this is how I am. And if we're very insecure, if we don't know ourselves very well, that does show on the outside. It shows in our body language, it shows in the way we behave, it shows in our values, and it shows in the people we hang around. And unfortunately, we can get targeted by abusers because we seem weak, or we seem like we have a lack of confidence, or we seem like we have not much self-esteem. So they're like, well, this person's easy pickings to be controlled and manipulated. And then in that situation, we can get stuck. We can, for example, if it's a relationship with a parent, you've pretty much grown up with this parent. You have been brought up in an environment where you believe that this is completely normal, and that was the case with me until later on. I always felt like this doesn't seem quite right. I'm not getting all my emotional needs met. I wasn't really thinking that at the time, but I was feeling it. Yet I was saying to myself, there's no problem here. There really isn't a problem. But there really was. And that was because of my lack of awareness that there was a problem. There was my lack of awareness around abuse itself. So it's really important that we educate ourselves and we understand what these things are, because then we can identify them, and then we can, slowly move ourselves away from those kinds of relationships where that's just continuously going on.
I'm curious to ask you about you mentioning that there was a problem.
Yeah.
When you say that, what age were you that you started? Was there an age range that you started to recognize that something was off in your relationship with your mom?
Yes. So with parents, it's slightly different because you've grown up in that environment. In a relationship, it might be a few months down the line or a year down the line. They might be putting on a mask for a certain amount of time. But with parents, specifically narcissistic parents, they get a lot from when you are powerless and you're easily manipulated. So that's, when you're quite young. So when I started to develop in adolescent age, that's when I started to develop my own opinions, my own ideas, my own values. And I started to realize, this is who I am. I started to form an identity. However, according to my narcissistic parent, that was not in any way acceptable, because therefore I was no longer aligned with the narcissistic parent's values and views and rules and all of that, whatever it was. And to my mother, that was like, this child is, defiant, and this child is bad. And that's what started I started to be told I was a bad child, I was defiant, I was this, I was that. And that's when I started to realize there's not something not quite right here, because all I'm doing is just being myself. Like I'm not doing anything necessarily that bad, but I feel really trapped. I felt really trapped. I felt really invalidated. I felt really sad. And I felt like, why? Why is this happening? This is really, really strange. I would, for example, maybe be sitting on the lounge crying, saying, Mum, why aren't you hearing me?
Mhm.
And she would just be in another room completely ignoring me. And I would feel, Mum, like, why? Why are you doing this? Why won't you just talk to me? And it's just a feeling inside, like something isn't right. Something isn't right here.
Was it hard for you to express yourself to your mom?
Yes,
What,
definitely. Because there was a lack of emotional intelligence in that relationship, I didn't learn any any form of expressing myself in an emotionally intelligent way. So the way I would express myself would be either lashing out, or it would be crying, or it would be, completely disassociating. So becoming really withdrawn as well,
mhm.
where I would want to not talk at all and just stay in my room and close my door. But none of that was recognized. And, not all parents can recognize when there's something going on with their kid. But when the child comes to them and says, I have a problem, and can you please help me? And then it's denied and invalidated by the parent, then the child is going to think that there's something wrong with them, that they have to withdraw, that they're isolated, that they have no one else to go to. And generally, in that narcissistic parental relationship, they make you believe that there's no one else. They make you believe that they're the only person that you can come to, and you cannot talk to anyone else about this.
There is so much in my head right now listening to you, to dissect, because we're discussing this because the audience that is here for us here on our platforms, and on your platform, they want to discuss this. They want to know they're not alone. You felt alone while you were going through it, though?
Totally. Yeah. Um, it was a feeling like, I'm a bad child. And then every time we would be around um, family members, friends of family, other adults, even other people that I was close with, I was scapegoated. I was told that, oh, she's such a naughty child. She does this, she does that. And, oh, I wish I had a better daughter, and blah, blah, blah. So then you're isolated. You're like, everyone else believes this thing that my parent has said about me. So the scapegoating is happening. Um, the, like, you're basically made like a black sheep of the family. So you feel like, well, maybe I am bad. Maybe all these people are thinking bad things about me, and they're judging me too. So how am I going to believe that I was ever in the right? I
Okay.
wasn't. I was
Okay.
in the wrong.
Okay. You're getting a lot of love, of course, from our beautiful friend of the
Hey,
refrain,
how you
that is
going?
here.
Thanks for being here.
Love you, my man. Appreciate it a great deal. Such an intuitive child might have saved your life and brought you before us here today. He says, what a pleasure it is to listen and to hear. Thank you
Thank
for
you.
being supportive to the channel, and and getting something from our merch store, to keep our show going, and paying the light bill to keep the shows going, and the internet. So I appreciate it. What I was going to mention to you, uh, is there are individuals that are in that age group that you were in as you experienced what you're talking about right now. They're listening to this. They're wanting to know what to do. There are some that are grown women, grown men who have experienced this. They have children of their own, and they've never really talked about it because, out of a sense of duty, not to discuss the emotions that they pushed down and never expressed.
Mm.
How did you get to the point where you knew that you needed to get it out instead of just acting out?
It was a very long time. It was not until I had a crisis in my life, and I don't want anyone else to get to that point. It shouldn't be at the point of a crisis, because that's a very hard time in your life to decide to cut someone off or do something about it. But up until the crisis, I knew something is going to blow over. Something is going to explode. It's not good, you know. The invalidation just kept it getting worse and worse, and I kept listening to that critical voice inside and believing that it was me. So it's really hard to say when someone is going to do something about it because it is an individual journey. It's really hard to stop denying. That's the hardest part, because that opens the floodgate for accepting that you have been through something that you didn't really know you had been through, such as abuse.
But
And you have to start seeing that person in a new way. And when you love them, how can you do that?
that's going to be hard to see them in a different light. But your denial left room open. Correct me if I'm wrong. Your denial left room open for continued abuse, if I understand what you are saying.
Definitely, yes.
Okay.
My denial was the lock and key. It was like I'm unlocking the door and I'm saying you can do this. Something that I've learned, and it's very, very powerful, is that a dysfunctional family will thrive under 4 things. The first one is denial. The second one is secrecy. The third one is rigid thinking. And the fourth one is isolation. So the first one, if we keep the denial going, the rest can keep happening. And until we stop denying, the next part, which is secrecy, cannot even be exposed. And sometimes when there's denial going on, we are holding on to major secrets that are part of the dysfunction in the family. And we don't want anyone else to know, because I think we have kind of been conditioned to believe that no one's going to believe us, and they're also going to scapegoat us as well.
Okay. The denial then is like the drawbridge. Once it's down and there's an acceptance of what's really taking place that is not normal, the secrets come out.
That's it.
The
And
secrets come out.
sometimes
Now you're either an enemy. Well, you're an enemy. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know what I'm talking about here. Go ahead. Correct me. Go
it's
ahead.
true though. You are an enemy. Like, you're the enemy of the state now. And sometimes the denial and the secrecy, they're separate things. Like, they come in at separate times. You might stop denying yourself, stop the secrets flowing around within your small group of people you know, people you trust, your therapist, for example. But you haven't yet confronted the family about the secrets.
Mm-hmm.
So the next step would be to confront those people. But, you know, sometimes we can't always do that. So then it's a matter of no longer living in secrecy, being honest about what happened to you. So first you stop denying it, but then you're honest. Then you're like, you know what, I don't really care about how this makes anyone else feel anymore. I'm going to be honest about it. I'm going to say that I had a really bad relationship with my parent and I can't be with them anymore because they just won't do anything to change that. And then when you
Now,
start opening up more and more, people are like, oh, okay, wow. You don't think that that's going to be the
yeah.
response.
Okay, that's where I wanted to get to next. You read my little small brain. Okay, so you start to delve into, I'm not going to deny this anymore, firm on that. The next thing is, I'm not being a part of this anymore and hold on to these secrets. I know what happened to me. This is what happened to me. I'm going to be honest and truthful and live that way because I'm being asked to be dishonest, not just to others, but to myself.
100%. Yeah.
Okay, now you're going to confront them per se. Maybe you can't confront them, but let's say you do bring it up. Let's
Yeah.
say you brought it up. Did you?
Yeah. No, well, essentially, yes. I've brought it up many times, but it was invalidated, not
Okay.
acknowledged, not acknowledged, denied, all of the things under the coin of gaslighting happen. So that's when I say confrontation, it's usually only confrontation for yourself. Like, just to say, I'm clearing
Okay.
the air,
Got
that I
it.
know what's been going on and I'm not allowing it anymore.
Got it.
But confrontation shouldn't, in these situations with an abuser, be about getting an apology, getting validation, acknowledgement, anything like that. That's a bonus if they do. Excellent. But most of the time they won't. So it's mostly just to go, you know what, I know what's going on and I'm not letting it happen anymore.
Yeah, of the refrain says, yeah, secrets on that score, it is like emotional blackmail, or worse, emotional incest is the way he describes it. So scary where the damage is done. Your
100%.
thoughts?
Yeah, like emotional incest is a major one. A parent, when they don't have a emotional crutch, for example, another partner or a good friend, they go to their child, and that happened to me. I was told about my parents' emotional problems, and then as the child, you're not asked outright to fix it, but what do? I love this parent. I really want to make them feel okay. So you become the parent instead. You start to look after their emotions. You start to manage their problems. And then they think, okay, well, they've accepted that. They've opened the door for that kind of treatment. So now, from now on, I'm going to go to that person and I'm going to tell them all about my problems. And that's what it used to be for me. And say, for example, every second day I would get a phone call. The phone call would be an hour long, and I would literally be sitting on the lounge. And this is embarrassing, right? I'd be sitting on the lounge like this, and I'd be looking at my partner. I'd go like this. I'd hold the phone away from my head like this. And I could hold it away from my head for 5 minutes, and she would not even notice that I wasn't there. She would be talking. And I would be like so emotionally drained by the end of these conversations. I wouldn't want to answer the phone the next time. And I would say, Mum, look, I can't always help you with these problems. You need to go and maybe go to therapy or find a friend to talk to about it. And then she'd be like, oh, how dare you? And I'd be like, okay, well, I must be a bad daughter if I'm not listening to my mum's problems. But the thing is, your boundaries are being pushed to fulfill someone else's emotional needs. That's all it is. And you don't have to do that.
And it's not even your responsibility. That it's not even something you really can repair or step into and be a solid foundation for that person. There's only so much that you can do.
Yeah.
That's when maybe they need to speak to a professional or someone else,
100%.
Another adult that would understand. You have of the refrain given us some more information. He says hostage scenarios. So similar to what you described, it's like a hostage scenario. But what if someone is going through that right now? The denial aspect of dealing with a narcissistic individual, the traits or full-blown diagnosed NPD. Someone's living with that. They've dealt with it in the past. They're living with it now. They may be working with someone like that. What's the tip when it comes to, dealing with that aspect or that phase of gaslighting, the denial?
The best advice I would give, first and foremost, for that situation would just to be stop denying every time you feel like this doesn't seem right. Say, you're in a work situation and your boss starts, saying things about you like, oh, you're so useless and blah, blah, blah. And you're like, a boss shouldn't be saying this, that's crossing the line.
What did you say to me? That's what you know. Don't listen to me, you guys.
Exactly.
Don't listen to me. You get fired. Or even better, just walk out.
No, but honestly, someone with good boundaries would be like, what? How dare you say that to me? Please
in the parking lot.
Don't speak to me like that.
No, don't do that. Don't do that.
Meet me in the parking lot. Yeah.
Stop.
But that's when we swing to aggressor, right? So we don't want to be the victim.
We don't want to be it.
We don't want to be the aggressor. We want to be in the middle. We want to be the creator. So we create whatever responsibility.
Pursue peace, people. Pursue peace.
Yeah.
Pursue peace.
And when we pursue peace, we pursue the creation of responsibility in our own lives. So that means I'm taking responsibility. I don't like the way you're talking to me. Please don't speak to me like that. Or, first, if you don't want to say that outright, just go, please don't talk to me like that. Yeah. I'm trying to help you, or something like that, It takes practice. It really does. But the first thing to do is to stop denying that there's something not quite right going on here. If you're getting home, for example, after work, after your boss says things like that, and you're obsessing over these thoughts and you're starting to think, oh, maybe I am useless, then there's probably something going on here. Yeah. It's probably time to stop denying that there's a toxic dynamic going on. Yeah. So the next step is to start looking at, what is my boundary? What am I not going to accept anymore? And that can be quite scary because maybe you've never stood up for yourself before. And standing up for yourself for the first time is going to be really scary. It's going to be clunky. It's going to be, all over the place. You're probably going to be shaking when you do it. Let's be honest. I was the first time I did it. I sometimes would ask people to do things for me because I'd be like, I'd be doing a waitress job, and I'd be like, I don't want to tell the customer that the thing's going to be late or something, and I'd ask someone else to do it for me. But these days, I practice. I'm like, you know what? If they're going to get angry at me, I'm just going to practice my response. And that's what we have to do going forward. We have to throw ourselves into those situations, know what our boundaries are, and practice them. Although maybe at first it's going to backfire. That's okay. Next time we do it again. Next time we do it again. And eventually we're teaching them how to treat us.
Love it. I love it.
Yeah.
I love doing shows with you.
So do I.
I love doing shows.
It's so much fun.
I feel sorry for anybody that's ever underestimated you, because you literally, you did it to me again. Why do you keep doing this to me? Just when I started. She did it again. She did it again.
I'm always going to do it.
Wait, hold on. Wait. Not planned again, but here we go. Just in case you want a nostalgic tumbler from 2021. Thanks to Boodle's Art Gallery, does our work for us.
We're talking about healing from narcissism.
Yes, healing from narcissism. You can get one for each year so that you can see the progress. Either that, or you can send it to the person who discarded you. Let them know that you're done.
That's a good one.
You can go to our merch store, the Recovery Zone, through our website. And I had somebody tell me, why don't you talk more about it? It just doesn't cross my mind. But yes, if you ever wanted to send something to someone who discarded you and mistreated you, feel free to send them that as the gift to let them know that you have moved on, and let them go to go do as they see fit. All right. Now, we were talking about denial. There's more that we could talk about, but I'm going to need to revisit, and I will put it in the description, the 4 points that you highlighted. Mm-hmm. You mentioned 4 things there. Could you repeat them again? And everybody, feel free to take a note of what Sarah's about to mention to you right now. The 4 things you mentioned a little bit earlier.
Yeah, so the 4 things that create a dysfunctional family, is that what you're talking about?
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first one is denial. The second one is secrecy. The third one is rigid thinking. And the 4th one is isolation. So if we can tackle those 4 things, you're basically not allowing the dysfunctional family to move forward in their old patterns.
Absolutely fantastic. All right, now we need to get to something that is often discussed, but not often discussed by you and I, and that's the trauma bond, is what we're going to discuss right now. This is a subject that's often talked about throughout social media. Shed light from your perspective when it comes to gaslighting concerning the trauma bond.
Yeah, so gaslighting can be perpetuated in the trauma bond. It can perpetuate the trauma bond because gaslighting is an attempt to deny your reality. And trauma bonds love denial of reality because trauma bonds are intense. They are full of a lot of intense promises and isolation from the outside world. So gaslighting can continue to perpetuate the trauma bond. It can make you feel like, oh, this person is seriously the most important person to me, and I need to continue on with how things are with them because I have no one else. It's usually isolation that creates a trauma bond because we're like, there's no one else I can go to fix this problem. For example, you're having a fight with someone when you're in a trauma bond with them, and you're very angry at each other and you're like butting heads like this. And then you go away and you're like, oh, okay, well, now I'm feeling really emotionally dysregulated, but I don't know how to fix it. So what do we do in the trauma bond? We go back to that person who created the trauma or the fight or whatever it was, because we're codependent on them to help us fix the problem a lot of the time, because we're like, this is the most amazing person in the whole world. We've got such a strong connection. Nothing can break that. Even a fight, nothing can break it. There's a huge lack of boundaries in that relationship. So usually you're like, you need to fix it for me, I need to fix it for you. And as a perfect example, that relationship with my mother was a trauma bond, because I kept going back to my mum, even though she never validated me. And she kept coming back to me, even though I kept getting upset about her trying to ask me for emotional support or whatever it was. So there's such an intense feeling like you're going to lose this person. Like they're going to be ripped away from you and you're not going to have anything or anyone else. That's what makes you want to stay with them. And so it's very chaotic. It's unpredictable. It's intense. It's, you will betray every kind of your own need to make sure that they're okay at the behest of your own, emotional sanity, basically. And whenever you may bring up, the intensity, or you might bring up a problem, the gaslighting comes up again and again. And gaslighting is basically a tool within the trauma bond to keep the trauma bond going.
We've got Of the Refrain with something here for us on the screen. Did you feel a need to go back to your mom, even though there was abuse, even after you started to recognize that you had to stop denying and so forth? And you were making progress. You were, as the term is nowadays, healing or recovering. That's the term. But as you were growing emotionally and becoming more emotionally mature and stable, did you still find yourself having that urge to go back and do some emotional repair for the other person at the expense of your own emotions?
Yes, sadly, I still want to. I'm never going to stop. And that's a really sad fact. I'm never going to want to stop having a relationship with my mum. However, it just doesn't work. So I've accepted. And that's the thing. There's the difference between that want and the drive to go and do it, and the acceptance that it's never going to happen. That's when you've started to heal. Although like realizing that you can kind of sit with those negative emotions and still want them, still, want them to be happy, still love them, still want to fix things, to mend things, to repair. You'll still want all of those things because you love them and you're still kind of in a trauma bond with them, A trauma bond is really, really hard to break. And the healing comes from accepting that it's something that you're always going to, it's hard to explain. It's something that you're always going to want deep down. You're always going to want the repair of the relationship. Regardless of, whether you're with your partner and you're having a toxic dynamic there, or you're with a family member and you have a toxic dynamic there, you're always going to want it to be okay. But the healing comes from accepting that it's never going to be how you want it to be.
So, and since that's what you're dealing with even now, how do you cope in this trauma bond dynamics, even though you've grown beyond that, you and your family?
Yep. So creating a life that is way more exciting outside of the trauma bond. Creating a validation for yourself that your life is great outside of the trauma bond. And also creating validation that if you go back into that dynamic, it's going to make your life just as bad as it was before. So you have to remind yourself, there's this, it's like amnesia in a way. You have this amnesia for a moment that things are going to be exactly the way you want them to be. And that's usually because you're projecting a good part of yourself onto them. But what you have to do is look at the reality of the situation. Have they ever given you what you needed? No. Have they ever validated you? No. Have they ever acknowledged or apologized or said that they want to mend or repair things just as much as you do? Not in my case, no. So if I look at the reality of it, what I'm doing is projecting my nice feelings onto my mum. And I remind
Wow.
myself that that is a
Wow.
nice
You're
thing
blowing my
about
mind.
me.
You're blowing my mind. I'm sorry. That was a lot. That was just a lot. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah,
You know how
yeah,
we do shows.
yeah.
Go ahead.
So,
I'll try
and
to
this has
remember.
come through therapy, right? This has come through therapy. My therapist has helped me to see that I am projecting all of these nice feelings like
Love it.
acceptance
Yeah.
and love and kindness and validation. I want to do all of these things for my mom. Yeah. But she's never done them for me. So what am I doing by going back there and trying to do that? I'm literally banging my own head against the wall again. What's the definition of insanity? Trying to do the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. That's what we do because we have that trauma bond inside. We're like, I love this person, I care about them. And we also project our nice feelings onto them. So, what we have to do is stop projecting and see them for what they really are. And when we see them for what they really are, we
Wow.
stop actually feeling nice about it. We go, hang on, they're not nice. They haven't given me anything. They're still not giving me anything. They still haven't even reached out. So why am I giving them all this energy and thought? And why am I even like, trying? It's not worth it. It's not worth it at all. So then you start to focus, and what I recommend is to focus on things that are more important to you. And I've filled up my life with amazing hobbies that I enjoy, friendships that are really precious and dear to me.
Mm.
And I've cut off relationships that were just like the ones with my mother. And you know what? I feel happy. That's all that matters.
And you are happy.
Yeah.
You every time I talk to you, you make me feel better. Just your attitude and the way you're approaching the challenges that you're faced with, and of the refrain, I'm telling you, of the refrain is he's your fanboy. He's
I,
in your club. He's in look at the comeback kid. Wait, I like what of the refrain. I like what you said earlier too. You said I'm gonna put it back on the screen. The last few words of this comment: strange mental blind spot.
Mhm.
Man, dude, that should be a T-shirt.
Yeah,
That's pretty deep. That's like a coffee mug right there.
yeah,
Strange mental blind spot. I guess we can have that emotionally. You have an emotional blind spot, a mental blind spot out of obligation for the family arrangement. But there comes a moment that if it's detrimental, a person may need to be careful, or as in your case, you needed to make sure that you went no contact or limited contact, or it is I've heard others say they've had to have supervised, as it were, contact. They made sure
mhm,
their husband or somebody was with them when they
yeah,
had to interact with that person so they could exit when it got out of control.
yeah. It's a great idea. Yeah, 100%. And it's I love horror movies. I love them, and I
Oh, excuse
love.
me, excuse me, excuse me. You can't just stick that in there.
Just throwing
I'm
that
learning
in there.
something new. Wait, hold on a second. You love what again? Horror movies? Is that what you
I
said?
love horror movies,
Okay, all
and
right, all right.
I like to use the analogy that when there's a really good psychological thriller,
I'm sorry.
and at the
Let
end
me
of the movie,
write that down about you because I never knew that. Go ahead. Go ahead.
yeah, and at the end of the thriller, we find out all of the truth that the main character didn't know, that we were basically on a journey with them, trying to figure it out with them. It's like that when we jump out of denial. We're like, whoa, whoa,
Okay.
whoa, whoa, what's going on here? It's a bit shocking. And we're kind of on that journey going, whoa, like I'm realizing how everything is happening. So don't assume that as soon as you come out of denial that everything is going to be
Peachy
peaches and
keen. Yeah,
cream. Yeah.
yeah. Okay. All right.
It's
All right.
going to be hard because you're going to go in and out of denial constantly because of the need and the want to repair the relationship. So what we do is we self-sabotage a little bit. We go, maybe I was wrong, maybe I was like completely wrong this whole time. We start to project again. We go, they're actually a really good person, and blah, 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 blah. And then we have to go
So
come
you
back out of
deny the
denial.
denial part?
Yeah.
The denial you went through, you go and like
Layers, yeah.
regurgitate them. You just okay.
So
I'm
many
just
layers,
okay. Wow.
layers upon layers of
Layers
denial
of
and projection and denial and projection. And until we go, hang on a second, I'm going to stop denying
yeah.
and I'm going to really look at the truth. And every day you sometimes have to remind yourself of the truth, every day in a week.
Okay.
Even today, today in my life, as happy as I am, some weeks I'm going to have to go through that period of going, you're projecting nice feelings onto this person when they haven't given you anything. And you have to keep reminding that. And there's going to be, that's a thing about life. There's uncomfortable things about life that we have to just accept. And that's hard sometimes when we're people pleasers for a very long time, we have this big view that the world is going to be, because we're people pleasers, we project, right? If we're a people pleaser, we want to be helpful, we want to be kind, we want to look out for other people's feelings. We have a lot of empathy. So what we think is the world is just like that too. And it's shocking when we realize that the world is not like that. Life is not like that. And it can be quite depressing at first when we're like, whoa, life is just not how I thought it would be, because there's these nasty people out there that can be like that. So it's a kind of process where you have to convince yourself that although things are not nice out in the world, there are still nice things. Life is still good, but we have to remind ourselves to be wary and careful of those nasty things that are out there, to put our boundaries up around those things. And that's when you realize I'm starting to get powerful now. I'm starting to build strength, because now I know what to be wary of when I go out into the outside world.
What you have been listening to, if you've never been here before, to NATV Network, Narc Abuse TV Network, this is exactly what the viewers wanted to hear and see. Our audience wants to hear and see. Many of them, again, beginners in their journey, and they have asked for Sarah to be back numerous times, and many others that you will see here and have seen here will be back numerous times to talk about subjects that deal with emotional abuse, physical abuse, domestic abuse, and a number of other things. But the question that a lot of people probably never thought about to ask Sarah is going to be asked now. When it comes to your life, Sarah, now, when I was growing up, a horror movie was Godzilla, but times have changed. So I just made this question up, describe your journey dealing with narcissism and narcissistic people in your life. What horror movie would you say describes what you have been through? Now, first of all, I'm not a horror movie buff, so whatever you say, I may not even know it, but unless you say Godzilla or King Kong, that was horror when I was growing up. But what horror movie describes what you have gone through dealing with a narcissist? And by the way, if you watch this back and you want to put in something or some thriller or whatever you guys want to, you can do that too in the comments. But Sarah, you're up.
I think this is very personal to my experience. But anything that has included Munchausen by proxy has been very, very triggering to me and made me think of my personal upbringing. So I watched The Act. That was a great show on HBO. I also watched Run on Netflix. That was a good movie. And I also watched Sharp Objects, and I read that book as well. That's a great one on HBO as well. All of them include a narcissistic mother. And the mother decides what's best for the child. And the child, in the end, starts to realize that the mother was quite manipulative. And it's when the child starts to realize that the mother's being manipulative and controlling them, that is quite triggering to me, because it reminds me so much of that experience growing up, that it was like, mother knows best and you don't know enough to make any kind of decisions for yourself. And then when you did try to make decisions for yourself, they were shot down and you were isolated even more so. And you were pulled back even more so. Your freedom was taken back even more so. So those kinds of stories are quite triggering to me, because although I don't think that my mom could be diagnosed with complete Munchausen or Munchausen by proxy. She did love to get attention from being sick, because that's the way she got attention, especially from me. So that's when I started to realize this is not a very healthy dynamic. Like, why does my mom, I used to say to my mom, why don't you go and, try a a new diet, like, maybe eating more vegetables or something like that, or maybe why don't you try some exercise or doing one of those health programs or something like that. And she would always be like, no, you cannot tell me what to do. But now I see that it was because she liked to get attention from being unwell. And she would gaslight me fully, deny it whenever I brought it up. But even if you don't have a parent,
you're the oldest
I'm the
child.
eldest. I'm the eldest child. Yeah. Even if you don't have a parent with Munchausen or Munchausen by proxy, the parallels with those parents in the narcissistic kind of behavior, very triggering. So for anyone who does watch it, if you want to know what a narcissistic parent is like, those 3 movies or shows will show you what it's like to be a child of a narcissistic parent, the control that goes on and the denial and the secrecy and the lies. I realized when I grew up, there was a lot of secrecy. There was a lot of lies that I was told. And it's shocking. It's like a new trauma, realizing that there's so much that I didn't know that I thought I did.
I have to tell you, you say that it is actually one of the things I was leading up to. Again, very good at what you're doing, explaining all of this to everyone. Thank you of the refrain for the compliment as well as what you're stating here. We really try to put on shows that will appeal to a number of different individuals instead of sounding cookie cutter like every show that's out there. But and thank you, Sarah, for explaining a number of these things for Gen X, Gen Z, and many others that are looking for fresh faces to explain things to them. But look, when it comes to you dealing with this type of a dynamic between you and your mom, someone else is experiencing that. They may not have a support system. They don't know a number of different things. How can they, by watching certain shows, reading certain books, different things you could recommend to them one-on-one in coaching or other things that you could do, how is it that they can break free from ignoring denial and all of the other things, the trauma bond, and start working their way loose from that abuse?
Yeah. So the acceptance and the moving away from denial and realizing that you're projecting and all of these things, they come with time. They are quite hard to do straight away.
No overnight. So nobody
overnight
is
with that
fooled
one.
here to think that this is okay. Just reading one book or listening to a few things on YouTube is going to make it overnight.
Yeah, like it's just adding to the information that you start to gather. And the more and more you start to gather, you start to build these neural pathways that are going, okay, I see what, they connect the dots for you and you see what's really going on. So over time that happens totally. But the first thing that I predominantly do with clients that come or people that sign up to coaching with me is we stop focusing on them, because the main thing
Time out.
that
Got to repeat that one.
we stop focusing
on who?
On the abuser. We stop
Bingo.
focusing on the abuser, because that's
Stop
what we've been doing. Yeah.
Stop it.
We've been doing that forever. We've been doing that our entire lives. We're obsessed. We are obsessed. We're obsessed with trying to get them to validate, to hear us, to see us, to do anything. Like, I'd do anything to get my mom to turn around and say, Sarah, you were right. I'm so sorry that I invalidated you. And that is all I would need from my mom. Something as simple as saying, I'm sorry that I invalidated you.
It would send you over the moon.
It would literally send me to the other side of the world. I'd close down my business and be like, I was wrong. But I'm not wrong.
You'd be waiting for a long time. Based upon what you're saying, you're still waiting. The
sad thing about it is, I'm still waiting, and I'm going to be waiting forever, unfortunately.
So you focus on what then?
So when clients come to me, usually their focus is quite obsessed upon the abuser, and it takes a little while for us to shift the focus back onto self. That is the most important part. You have been spending so much time on this person, on this person's feelings, on this person's emotions, on this person's thoughts, on this person's life. What about yours? How much have you been spending on yours? Probably not much. You've been literally giving your life to this person, especially if it's a parent, especially if they've parentified you and made you the caregiver. You have given your life to them. So it's now time focus back on me. And that's really hard when you're still in the environment with the abuser and you start focusing on yourself, and then they go, hang on, what are you doing? Why is the focus not on me? They might start saying things like, well, I knew you were a bad child, or, you're a bad partner, or something like that. And you've got to be like really headstrong. And that's why it takes some time, it takes the support from someone like a coach like myself, or the community. At first, it was just the community for me. I would write posts in the community saying, this has happened with me. I would get responses from people who had gone through it, who'd been 20 years down the line, and they still say the exact same thing. They would give anything to have that validation, that love, that acceptance, that whatever it is. But we go through the motions of accepting that it's never going to happen and focusing back on self and creating a life that you wanted outside of that person. So that means, what do you want? And that may not be a question that you've asked yourself for a very long time. You may never have
really
asked
big
yourself
question,
that.
Sarah.
Yep.
That's a really huge question for someone, I imagine, that has never really given thought to what they want, because they were consumed with whoever the abuser is and what they want and keeping them happy.
Yep. And you'll notice that you probably already know what you want. Because when I was a young girl, I knew that I wanted to move out when I was 18, and I did that because of the environment that I was in. Whenever I was asked to go and do something for my parent, I knew that I didn't want to do it. I was like, deep down, I don't have the energy for this. I don't want to do it, because I know that I'm either going to be forced to do something that I don't want to do, told that I'm wrong for not doing it, or my boundaries are going to be pushed. I'm going to be asked to stay longer than I can, or something like that. And then if I don't, the guilt trips come in. So all of that is going to happen. But then you've got to basically start, you've got to stop guilting yourself. You got to start going, okay, every time my mom says, this is my example, every time my mom says, you got to come over here, you got to fix my TV. And I'd be like, I don't want to do that. I would deny myself, and I'd be like, I've got to do it for my parent, because, it's my parent. They've done all this stuff for me. This was her words ringing in my head. She's done all this stuff for me. She's raised me. I'd be an ungrateful child if I didn't go over there and help her with this one thing. But then I started to listen to what I wanted when I cut off my parent. I said, no, none of this stuff is what I wanted to do. I just wanted to spend time with my parent. I just wanted to go over there, have some dinner, have a nice chat about life, and then, head on my merry way. That's what we're supposed to be doing. I'm not supposed to go over there and be used to do everything and then go home feeling exhausted. That's the same in any kind of relationship. Like, it can't be all take on one end and then no give on the other. So that's what I mean by do what you want. Like, if you're like, no, this is going to take all of my energy, no, I'm not doing it. And if they say you're a bad person, the next step is to build up that self-esteem, build up that confidence, to know that that's not true. And that's what I meant by, in our last sessions, I think it was last session that we spoke, we're attacking the critical voice in our head, and we're starting to record a new voice over the top, which is our voice, not their voice. Because usually when we start to say, oh, I'm a bad daughter, or oh, I'm such a bad person, whose voice is that? It's usually someone else's, that they've told us that, and we're repeating it to ourselves to make ourselves feel guilty.
And they're not even in the room anymore. You may have moved far away. They may have discarded you. They may, it could be a sibling, it could be a parent, whatever.
You might have only met this person once.
But okay, that's mind blowing in itself, that they would have that much power to have that effect on a person. But you're saying we need to hear our voice and positive thoughts, and not give in to the negative thoughts and feelings of someone else who just wants to take from us.
Yeah, we might not realize that they're trying to take, but you'll know straight away that this doesn't feel good. If it doesn't feel good, you have every right to, number one, stand up for yourself. Number two, put up a boundary. And number three, move away from this environment. All
right. Everybody who's here, thank you of the refrain, and all of you who will watch this back later. We are not going to disappear, but I do want you to know we are going to take a break. I want to get into a couple of comments that were from of the refrain. I'm going to put them back on the screen in just a second. And then after we do that, Sarah and I will touch on them We are going to still be here. The live connection will be up. You can make comments, you can talk for a moment, but we're going to refresh ourselves for about 2 minutes. There's a video that's going to play for you with some encouraging words and some encouraging thoughts and information. But Sarah and I are going to take a moment, refresh our throat, take a little break away, and we're going to come right back to talk some more, because we're going to talk about the cycle of abuse when we come back. The cycle of abuse. That's what we're going to talk about when we come back. But right now, I really want to take a look at a couple of things that of the refrain mentioned. He said, for me, one more trip to the emergency room, the doctor asked me a bunch of questions, and bam, she wrote PTSD on my chart. Laugh out loud. Looking back, it was probably written in his eyes, or in my eyes, he put. And then he says, phew, mercy.
Yeah.
And then he also has another thought here. I'm going to get to this one. After the emergency room visit, and by the way, of the refrain, thank you for always sharing your experience. It has proved to be helpful to a lot of people that write me and tell me that they appreciate the things that you say during our live shows. He says, I hopped in the truck and told the abuser she was not ever going to hit me again. We got home. She filed for divorce. She dropped me off on the sidewalk, homeless.
That's terrible. I'm so sorry that you went through that. And isn't it interesting how as soon as you put up a boundary, standing up for yourself, you're immediately discarded?
It's amazing how many stories I have heard since we started this back in August of 2020 of individuals who are taken advantage of. Their kindness is misconstrued as stupidity, or their ability to want to give. Or I like the way you said it, projecting onto others the goodness that they want to share and want to give before they know it, they're depleted, huh? Their energy is gone.
Yeah. And then you do, like of the refrain, you do have these symptoms of PTSD. You don't even realize it. Someone tells you have PTSD and you're like, what? What are you talking about? This is just a normal day for me. But it's not really.
Really serious subject, but trust me, right? Sometimes you got to laugh at this because it's like, it is just it's amazing and unbelievable. I almost made a whole nother word for Scrabble. Unamazing. I might use that on my daughters. Unamazing. How we can literally be brought into a situation. Let me see if I put that up there. He's laughing at us. He's laughing at what we said. Unamazing how we can get caught in situations, and if we don't have the right information, we think it's a normal situation. We think we're going to this is normal. We're going to deal with this. We're going to deal with that, and we think everybody else is dealing with it. Well, technically, I guess everybody is if they're dealing with an abuser, narcissist.
But for some reason, we think we're the one in the wrong. For some reason, we think we caused the problem. They want it that way.
All right, everybody. Cycle of abuse. When we come back, I'm going to put a video up for you in a little bit, and I have another video at the end of the show because I don't get hate mail, but if you want to send me some, I'll be happy to ignore it or block you, whichever. But what I was going to say is we do have another show, episode number 6, coming up. I'm not going to tell you what that is, just like I didn't tell you what this one was until I posted it. You're going to really like that one as well. Sarah's going to delve into a number of different things. Okay, I'll tell you this much. It has to do with manipulation. You're laughing. I thought I'd give him this one. I didn't give him the other 5. It deals with manipulation. Let me put his comment up here. Oh man, that's a great comment.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I've come to learn by hearing everyone's stories, by putting these shows on. High functioning in chaos. Wow. That is just,
interestingly, when you're high functioning in chaos and you realize what you've been through, sometimes you have a bit of a breakdown because you're like, whoa, I've been holding it together this long and for so strongly. Yeah.
I'm amazed by people that have been on the show, period. But some of them and their stories of survival, it's like 20, 30, 40. I had one person that was it was like 55 years of abuse.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just from like her husband. She had family members. She was like all over the place. I was like, how did you keep your sanity running here, running there, being told you're no good over here, being told, you don't look right. Why don't you
Mm,
dress this way? It's like,
mm.
and she just kept doing it till like a light bulb came on one day when she read something. She read something, I can't remember where she said she read, and then it all changed. And as soon
Yeah.
as you said, and many people say, you began to exercise a measure of strong, firm boundaries
Mm.
because you
Yeah.
love yourself and you want to take care of your emotional well-being,
Yeah.
it just exploded on her.
Yeah. Yeah.
Literally exploded. She was carrying everyone and they
Yeah.
like all turned on her.
Yeah. That's so difficult. And when that happens, like you're going here, there, and everyone's telling you you're not good enough, this, that. What you do as a response is you try to be better. You try to be more perfect.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
try to be this
That's what she
vision
said.
of
That's what she said.
perfection that you
Yeah.
cannot even live up to.
Yeah.
And then you realize that this is just not sustainable. This is not, I cannot do this.
Yeah.
And then when you start, distancing yourself, and when you're in the position that I am in now, for example, and you've done some healing, you've started to accept and understand what this projection of your own nice feelings are, you start to realize that it's okay not to be perfect.
Yes. Yes.
It's okay to be just as you are, and you were probably pretty damn great before and as you are now, and you don't need to change anything.
It's Friday. I tell everybody for years, you come on a show on Friday, I'm goofy. But I'm telling you, this way.
Yeah.
She's absolutely correct.
Yeah.
You know, a person will run around to the point that they are exhausted. But to me, this is personal now. I'm saying what I've noticed when talking with people. What's very sad to me is they never got to replenish any aspect of their life along the way. And it's
Yeah.
almost as if they just came out of the womb and they are just finding life, what food tastes like or what it's like to actually walk. The person I'm thinking of, hopefully matter of fact, we'll get her back on the show. Excuse me. What she was mentioning is that she had to be perfect at her job. She felt she had to be perfect with every dinner. She
Yeah.
had to be, and it was listening to her. I was going like, man, my mother wasn't like that. She's like, if you didn't like that, you can go down the street and go get something to eat. But she felt the need to never make a mistake.
Yeah.
But that was normal for her. She was doing it for years. Please,
Mhm.
if you're living your life like that, please stop it.
Mhm.
just
Yeah.
stop it.
Yeah. And
Put
if you have
bologna on the
people,
table if you have to, and tell them you're taking a break and you're going to go
yeah,
watch TV. So
exactly. And if you have people putting those conditions on you, let them know
unbelievable.
that, I'm
Have
not
a talk.
accepting that. Yeah.
Yeah. Have a one-sided talk. No, I'm just kidding. Try to have a discussion in
Yeah.
peace. Pursue
Yeah.
peace, people. Don't you ever
Boundaries.
do it.
Yeah.
All right, now everybody, you have endured me, and you're in love with Sarah, and Sarah is now about to take a break along with me. We're going to take a commercial break together. So everybody, please enjoy what I'm going to put for you, and we'll be right back. We have some other things we're going to talk about, but let's get into self-sabotage and this manipulation, a number of other things that can happen when it comes to gaslighting. Go right ahead.
So when it comes to self-sabotage, it's basically something that will happen regularly with people who are not used to listening to their own intuition. So your intuition will basically tell you when there's a red flag. And when you get a red flag, generally, in most situations, you'll go, oh, that doesn't feel quite 100% right. I'm going to maybe look into that, or I'm going to skirt around it somehow, or I'm going to avoid it altogether. But when we are in a relationship with someone who seems to be manipulating us and gaslighting us, but we have an emotional investment with them, we tend to, especially when there is narcissism going on, it becomes kind of like an addiction with them. We have this addiction to going back into the cycle with them because the cycle is very clear. It's put a lot of love and hoovering and love bombing onto you so that you feel great, feel amazing at first, and you're like, this is almost too good to be true. And then they'll discard you or they'll devalue you in some way. So they'll make you feel less than certain about yourself. They'll make you feel like you're questioning yourself. And then you start to bring up, well, this inner critic starts to build up inside of you. And the inner critic starts to tell you things. And the things that it tells you are not necessarily your own voice, but it does sound like your own voice in your own head.
Mm-hmm.
And it'll say things like, you're not worth it. This isn't going to work out. You're not going to get the things that you want. You're not good enough. You do this all the time, etc., etc. And then how that affects you is you get the same kind of effects as normal PTSD. You get anxiety. You have that inner critic. You naturally self-sabotage. And it will hold you back in life. You'll start to believe that the things that had happened to you may even be something that you deserve. You might go, this always happens to me. And I kind of deserve it. Now I'm expecting it to happen. I'm expecting it to happen again and again.
Wow.
And then you get into a new relationship and this person starts to abuse you, for example. And it just adds to the complex PTSD, which adds to the sense that maybe I'm a bad person. Maybe there's something wrong with me. That's why I keep attracting all of these bad experiences. And that holds you back in life. It really does. It stops you from moving forward. And then you get stuck.
I want to thank everyone for giving us a chance to get a little something down our throat, to drink a little something, something. Nice to get some water and get my voice back. Sarah, we are going to discuss a little bit more of this aspect of abuse within the family dynamic and other aspects of life, this cycle of abuse. Go right ahead.
Yes. So the cycle of abuse is similar to Darvo that we've already spoken about, but it's expanded a little bit. So what happens with the cycle of abuse is, excuse me, I'm just going to write it in front of me. So first we have the love bombing phase where it's, everything is amazing. We feel like it's almost too good to be true. We're like, this person is incredible. I cannot believe how amazing they are. They might be so similar to you, or they might have very similar values. They might be mirroring you in so many ways that you're like, wow, this person seems like, they're like my long lost twin in a way. What is really happening if you're dealing with a narcissist is what they're doing is picking up on cues and things about you that make you seem beautiful or amazing, and then mirroring them back to you so that they seem beautiful and amazing too. And then afterwards, what will happen is they we get deeper into the relationship. Something may happen that's negative, for example, or they may decide it's just a Tuesday and I wake up and I'm going to discard you. So the discard is the next part of the devalue. Devalue is the next part. Devalue is the next part of the cycle of abuse before discard, because if you're having a fight or if they say something that is different to a view of theirs, they'll say something to undermine your view. So although they're amazing, although they're beautiful, although they're so similar to you, there's something just a little bit wrong with you. There's something just a little bit less about you than them. And because of this less than-ness, or this, otherness, they can then discard you, which is going to make you feel really bad about yourself. It's going to make you feel worthless. It's going to make you wonder, what did I do wrong? Like, what's wrong with me? Have I done something to upset them? Or maybe I'm not good enough.
Is that's the feeling that they want to put into us, as it were? That's what they're trying to get us to do? That's their goal?
Yeah. The main goal of the discard is to make you feel question yourself, to make you feel like you're not of value, to make you think that maybe they're better than me and maybe I need to step up to maybe seem a little bit better than I already am. And that's what creates the people pleaser dynamic. That's why we step up. That's why we try to be better, to be perfect, to be amazing. But then when we're perfect and amazing, suddenly what happens is they start to hoover us back in again.
Wow.
So the hoover begins, and hoover means they're vacuuming you back in. In Australia, we use vacuum, not hoover. But they start to suck you back in.
Mm.
They start to say all those things that they started to say at the beginning, like, you're amazing. We have all these amazing values, and I loved you all along. And, you're such a good person. And if you're in the dynamic of parent-child relationship, for example,
Mm-hmm.
how this plays out is, you're my favorite kid, and you've always
Oh,
been such a good kid,
wow.
and things like that. They might say stuff like that. You've always been such a good kid, and you've always been there for me, and you're not as bad as I say, and blah blah
Mm.
blah.
Mm.
And you're like, oh wow, oh, maybe they've seen all the things that they were supposed to see. We start to go in, they start to love bomb us again. They do all those things until we feel safe. Suddenly we feel safe, we feel at ease, started to open up again. And then what happens? Devalue comes in again. So they've found something that they don't like, and they're like, well, I don't know about that. Maybe that's wrong. Maybe that's, something that you shouldn't do. And you're like, oh, okay. That makes me wrong again.
Mm.
And then suddenly you're wrong and they discard you. So it just keeps going around and around and around in a circle. So I'm going to write it out again so you can see it going around in a circle. So you can see what it looks like. Love bombing, to devalue, to discard, to hoover. And I'll show you up on the camera. This is the cycle of abuse. It goes around and around and around in a circle. And I can tell you right now that it will still happen, even at my point in time.
Even though years have passed.
Even though years have passed. I've had people contact me and say, I can't believe it's been 2 years and now they've sent me a message saying, I miss you. And you're like, what?
Out of the blue? Just
Out
like
of the blue, out of nowhere, absolutely nowhere. And so, perfect example, this person said, oh, they've messaged me out of the blue. They go onto this person's profile who has discarded them, who's made them feel absolutely crap, suddenly said, I missed you. But on their profile, they're engaged to someone else. What's going on here?
Oh, man. Come on. Hey, come on now.
So they are engaging in the cycle of abuse with more than one person. And this is very true. It's going to happen with more than one person. They are engaging in the cycle of abuse at different points with different people at one point in time.
At some point, that's got to be considered a serious red flag. At some point, that's got to be a red flag that lets you know that you need to maybe exit stage left. You need to let this go.
Yeah.
Because they're keeping the cycle going. Okay, so knowing that there's a cycle and knowing what it is going to be able to give a person a chance to protect themselves.
Yeah.
But
so if you
out
could
of the
identify
cycle, I've never asked this of anyone who does what you do and others that do it, because I'm just a man with a mic. But out of the cycle, which one would you say is the one somebody needs to truly be careful with? Which one is like the most dangerous out of that cycle? I'm just curious to ask.
That's a good question. I would say at different points in time, they're all very important. So, for example, you've met someone for the first time, never met them before. They start saying things like, perfect example, I put this up on a post that I had the other day. You'll notice when you're starting to see someone and it feels almost too good to be true. Mm-hmm. You've only spoken to them for about a week and they're saying, we should move overseas together or something like that. And you're like, whoa, like this is what I've been looking for. But like, is this for real? Like, if you're asking that question, it's probably for real, like not for real. Yeah. If they're being, overly attentive or overly, just a bit much, it's a bit of a red flag. Or if they're being the opposite, if they're not being enough, if they're not quite giving you what you deserve or respect. Because when you meet someone, there's two different ways it could go. If they're a true narcissist, they'll pretty much do the love bomb. They'll make you feel amazing. They will pretty much, like, you will feel like you're on a pedestal, you're the queen or the king or whatever it is to them. But if they're like the kind of narcissist that wants to come in and make themselves feel elated by making someone else feel quite good about themselves, later on the discard comes. Sometimes though, a person will start the devalue and the discard early, and like they kind of like jump over the love bomb straight to devalue and discard because they know you're a weak kind of person, and they know that by devaluing you, you're going to need more attention, you're going to need more love. So they go to the devalue, the discard, and then they hoover you back in. They kind of love bomb you, and then they go back to devalue. So this is what we call the typical player. The typical player, if you come across them, you never feel like you're quite good enough for them straight away. They never make you feel quite good enough, but you really, really crave their attention, right?
Cold-blooded, that's what I call it.
It's cold-blooded.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so there's two, I'd say these two, like these love bombing and devalue are the ones to look out for. But then once you've been discarded, right, that's pretty much the sign that you should walk away. The discard is the sign like, okay, maybe I haven't been paying attention at the love bomb. Maybe I haven't been paying attention at the discard, the devalue. Now I pay attention at the discard. Now I pay attention at the hoover. I run away when the hoover happens.
Okay, so if that's the case, the discard, and you're gonna walk away, but now you know your emotional spider senses should tell you that the H or the V, if you're from Australia, is vacuum, but the hoover is coming. Which really is kind of like signing it in blood from the narc that I'm really a narc. Because once the hoover comes, it's like, okay, then I know they're trying 100%. To start this cycle up again because they got another cycle over there and maybe over there and over there. And they're playing this game.
Yes,
now,
100%.
Okay, in the devalue, and if there was something you were going to say, go ahead and get back to it if you're going to say something there. But I just want to ask this question. When it comes to the devalue, are we talking about passive aggressive sarcasm? Are we talking about people who just like to put somebody down or make somebody else the end of their joke all the time?
Not always, no. Devalue can be something as simple as not talking to you, not sending you, they message you for a week. Yep. They message you for a week in a row saying, good morning, how are you? And then suddenly one morning, no message. You send them a message. They're like, hey. You're like, what's going on? And you're like, is everything all right? And they're like, yeah, everything's fine. They haven't told you what's going on. This is a sign that they're trying to make you feel a way that is not respectful. It's not respected, or it's not showing signs that they love you, which they may have been showing before. It's not showing signs that they value you. Someone who's truly interested or cares about you, friend, family, partner, boss, anyone, doesn't matter who it is, they are not going to engage in behavior that makes you question yourself or feel confused. And if they do make you feel confused and you question it, and if they're a respectful person, they might say something like, oh, I'm sorry, I'm just having a bad day or something, like, oh, I've got something else on my mind. And then the next day they're back to normal.
They would want to clear it up is what you're saying.
Yeah. They will want to clear it up. They will respect you just as much as you want to respect them. But when there's a lack of respect and you're questioning yourself, and when you don't have high self-esteem, what do? You go, oh, maybe there's something not quite good enough about me. You try harder to be good enough for them. And that puts you in a position where they now believe, and you've opened the doorway. You've already showed them that if you're going to try harder to be better for them, they're going to set the bar even higher next time. There's never going to be a time where you're good enough for them, and they're always going to find a way to devalue or discard you. And then when they've realized I've lost something amazing, back to the hoover, and you're like, oh, I must be good enough again. I must be great.
It's not true.
So we go back.
Yeah, but it's really not true, because they're insatiable when it comes to
playing a game,
a standard that they set.
Game.
Yeah, the game. as you're saying. It's almost as if by devaluing the individual, their target, their victim, an individual, it's almost as if they are saying they want to be love bombed back from you. Don't mind me. It's stuff that pops in my head. It's almost like
Totally.
they're saying, no, I want to see you give me more because I already know I'm going to give you less. I'm only going to, and whatever I'm giving you is really a facade. It's just a mirror image of you.
Yes, because it inflates a sense of self-importance. The more and more you give them, they're like, well, this makes me seem really important. It makes me feel really good. It
Yeah.
makes me feel like, I'm the top of the top, because what do? We put them up there. That's what we do. And that's what a narcissist loves and needs. That's what they thrive off. They
Is that
need to be
we
top of
put
the
them,
top.
that we put them on top, that we
Yeah.
give them this attention. We start telling all friends and family. We start talking about all the little things that were really, truly little things because they never really meant what they did. They were using it for whatever time until they moved on to the discard phase.
Yes.
But in actuality, what does it say about us if we find ourselves at a discard and then here comes the vacuuming and the hoovering part and we throw down the drawbridge and take them back in? I'm trying to say it in a certain way because I know some have said that they've done that.
Mhm.
It's not a slight if you've done that. But what does it say about our emotional or mental psyche? The trauma bond is still strong then?
Totally. It means the trauma bond is still strong, and it also means we don't have enough. And this is very hard to accept sometimes. It means we don't have
That's why
enough.
I'm asking you. I'm
Yeah.
letting you do it because if I said I let them give you the hate mails.
Yeah,
Go
that's
ahead.
okay. You can give it to me. It sometimes means that you don't have enough self-regard. You don't love yourself enough. Because if you don't love yourself enough, you're not going to know when to say no. When you don't love yourself and know yourself, what you deserve, because if you've been taught your whole life that you don't deserve anything and you haven't taught yourself what you deserve, what do you think you deserve? Nothing.
Nothing. Yeah.
So you end up, what it means about you is that you feel that you deserve nothing. It means that you feel that you're not good enough. It means that you feel like you're never going to be good enough and that there's a really high standard of perfection that you need to live up to,
Yeah.
when that's not true.
And
You are actually good enough.
yeah, and this part, everyone, please, many of you may be seasoned and veterans when talking about this, have your own shows, have your own coaching, whatever. This may not be for you. This may not be for you. This is for those who write us and the over 60,000 viewers that we have that watch our shows, our live shows, and our postings. They want to have this discussion about if they don't feel good enough and have taken that person back. That doesn't mean you're defective. It does not mean that you're not good enough. And by all means, it doesn't mean you have no value and you must settle for what's on the ground.
Yeah. Yeah.
You
100%.
don't have to do that. Go ahead. You were going to say some more. I just
No,
wanted
yeah,
to
I'm
say
just
that. Go ahead,
agreeing
please.
with you. Yeah. It does not mean that that is true at all, that you have not enough self-esteem, not enough confidence. You've just been emotionally battered by someone who made you think
emotionally bullied,
something else.
technically,
Yeah.
and manipulated by someone.
Yeah. And what they have done is, in a normal, healthy individual, a normal, healthy individual should have a record playing on the turntable, telling them all these things about your goals, your values, your beliefs, everything that's true about you that makes you feel strong and powerful and like you have a place and identity in the world. But instead, they took that record off and they put their own on. And it's all this horrible hate and, negative, horrible stuff that is literally decomposing your mental state. And if your mental state is decomposing, how are you going to have the capacity to love yourself? It's not possible because you completely believe the things that are in your environment consistently. So the thing that I do with my clients is usually around session 5, we get to that point where we're kind of ready. It's about 3 months in, ish, less than 3 months, where we're kind of ready to start shifting the environment, because environment is the biggest creator of who we are. If my mentor says that we, it's not what he says, but he likes to tell me that we are the product of the 5 people we spend the most time around. So if we're the product of the 5 people we spend the most time around, who are you being created by? So if we're spending time around people who are abusers, people who discredit us, people who don't value us, people who...
Problem. That's a problem. Go ahead.
What are we becoming? Yeah. So the environment is something that's really important to shift. And that sometimes means physically removing yourself. But sometimes you can't do that. Sometimes you're a child in that environment and you're like, I cannot get out because I'm not old enough to move out, for example. You need to shift your internal environment. That means talking to people who are going to confirm that you are a good person, confirm what you are going through, confirm your experiences, that your experiences are wrong, that they're not right, that you can be shifting your experience, that you can be changing your life to benefit you instead of the abuser. And when we change our environment, what happens in the long run? Because these things shift us, these things, it's kind of like the law of attraction. When we shift our environment, we start to shift our thoughts. We start to wipe the lens. Oh, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
It's like looking through the lens of a camera, and
right.
The camera lens is dirty. So we're looking through this dirty camera lens and we're like, all I see is dirt.
Mm-hmm.
But when we start to shift our environment, we start to see new things. We start to evolve a little bit. We've wiped the lens. We're now seeing new things. We're starting to see good people. We're starting to see good experiences. And we're no longer focusing so much on those dirty lens scratches and things like that.
The yucky stuff that's there.
And then life starts to change. People start to notice you're changing. You seem more confident. You seem like you've got a good bunch of people around you. You seem like ... Well, it's true. You do have that. And people will gravitate towards you that are like you. So like attracts like. And unfortunately, if we hate ourselves, if we feel weak, if we're saying we're not good enough, we're going to attract people who believe the same about us.
Yeah.
And that's why, and it's not our fault at all. Not our fault. And I'm not saying in any way that it is your fault by saying that, but the way we believe those things about ourselves attracts people who go, you're easy pickings. I'm going to make you believe that even more so.
Changing our environment then can have a profound effect, is what you're saying, for sure. But we can't take on the responsibility that it's our fault, because it'll create a whole lifestyle from what you're saying. A person will begin to live that lifestyle, I'm not good enough. So everything at the bottom of the barrel, that's just me and that's what I deserve. But what if someone begins to recognize that they are good enough? But here again, I'm going to say it one more time, everybody, but here comes the vacuum and the hoovering. Some words, some tips. Matter of fact, here, hold on a second. Here we go. I'm going to do this. Give us a motivational tip. If the discard has already happened, you're making great rebound and emotional rebounding, mentally rebounding, maybe even starting to do some walking, hanging out with some friends and going bike riding. You start to breathe again. And here come the Hoover.
Mm-hmm.
Here come the Hoover.
Here they come. They pop into your inbox and you're like, oh.
Yeah, but you're minding your own business and there it goes on your phone, or here comes somebody in the flying monkeys, or here comes the flying rhinoceroses or whatever. I'm just making up stuff. And here they come.
Yeah. And
by the way, blah, blah, blah. And here comes that little seed popped into your head where you start to go back to that lifestyle you had of being the repairman or repairwoman for that broken person who doesn't care. And all they want to do is take and not accept accountability.
Yeah.
Motivational tip, if you're between the discard and the Hoover.
So a good reminder about this person is that if you are quite motivated by them coming back, if you are quite obsessive about them coming back and giving you what you want and need, it's probably a sign that you should walk away. So, for example, with my mother, I would give anything for my mum to come and be like, hey, let's do this. Or, for example, the story that I told on my Instagram the other day with any one of those guys who discarded me before my partner came along. They showed me that attention. I was like, oh, this means I'm amazing. This must mean I'm good. Oh my God.
I have never seen you make that face before. And we've talked a lot.
You're jumping up and down.
That was
You're
the
going,
best. That was, I might just screenshot that face. That's what you felt, right? You were like,
feels like that.
Oh my goodness. My mom didn't make me feel this way. Nobody, my sisters didn't make me, right? My boss hates me.
I'm getting
this
that
is the
thing
only
that I've
person
always
that
wished
sees
for.
the good in me. I'm
sorry
over-talking
to
you.
interrupt
Please,
you.
go ahead.
No, you're like, I'm getting that thing that I always wish for. Oh my gosh. It's probably a sign that no. It's too good to be true. Like, really, don't believe them. Like, a lot of the time.
Just don't believe. No, wait. Just don't believe them.
Just don't believe it.
That should be a chapter in one of your books. That should be a chapter in your book. Just don't believe it.
First and foremost, you're probably going to go back and do it. So a lot of the time we do. I've done it. We've all done it. You go back. Go ahead, my friend. Go back. But as soon as you realize that the cycle of abuse has begun again, you're going to be like, what am I doing? Why did I do this? Oh my God, I'm back in the same position I was in before. We say it every single time. Every single time. I say it even with my own mother. It was like literally 2 months ago where I was like, okay, maybe we're going to try. And I tried. And it backfired really badly. And I said, no more. I cannot do this anymore. It puts me through the most huge emotional roller coaster. Yeah. I go up, down, almost to the point of, not wanting to be alive anymore, because you're like, this is just not worth experiencing, because you wish for their attention. You wished for their love so much. And the sign that you wish and need and really hope and obsess about their attention is a sign that they're not good for you, because they have manipulated you to think that any little drop of their attention or love is going to make you feel like you are amazing or validated or acknowledged or whatever it may be for you, that you are seen. In the end, it always exactly plays out as it did before. Yeah. So that's all I'm going to, that's all I can give you, is that don't believe it. Yeah, don't believe it. Really believe what happened before. Yeah. And that's what I said before about we tend to project our nice feelings onto them. We go, oh, maybe they've realized, like I realized. Maybe they've become nice because we're all nice, Don't believe it. What did they do before? Believe that. Remind yourself what happened before. Believe that. Remember it. Don't deny it. Like I said before, like the secrecy, the denial, the secrecy, the rigid thinking, and the isolation. So what are we doing? We're denying that they're gonna be like that again. We're denying that they're an abuser. We're keeping the abuse secret because we don't want anyone else to know that they're like that, because then we can't go back to them. Everyone would be like, what are you doing? Rigid thinking. We believe that it's going to stay one way forever. They're going to either they're going to hate us forever, or they're going to love us forever. It's going to be one way or another. Or, one day they're going to open up and things are going to be amazing again. That's another sign of rigid thinking.
It's just all of a sudden going to be better.
Yeah. Rigid thinking. We need to stop being so rigid in our thoughts that, one day it's going to change. We have to be more accepting and open that, things are very complicated. People change their minds. People think differently. We can't be so rigid and think that it's either one way or another. Don't be black and white. And then the fourth one is isolation. So we cannot isolate ourselves with this person and think that that's the only person who's going to fix all of our problems, and that's the only person who's going to make us feel seen, heard, and validated. When we remove those four things from the equation, we can see them for what they really are. The cycle of abuse is now stopped. We don't need their validation. We don't need them to make us seem like we're amazing. All of that is going to come from inside. And I can guarantee you that it doesn't matter who you talk to. It doesn't matter if it's your parent. It doesn't matter if it's a friend, it doesn't matter who it is, it doesn't matter how many people tell you you are amazing, that tell you you are great, that tell you that you're validated, seen, heard, until you feel that inside, it's not going to do anything. You need to build that inside yourself. And that comes from affirmations, talking to yourself nicely, shifting your environment, putting up boundaries, knowing what you deserve, and not accepting behavior that you don't deserve. Then more and more, the confidence builds. Then you know what you deserve. Then you love yourself. Yeah. It's a strange feeling when you go, oh, hey, I love myself enough not to accept that. You may not have ever done that before.
It reminds me of something a guest said. He was saying he hated waking up in the morning because he automatically woke up with thoughts that he wasn't good enough, and it was hard for him to go to sleep at night because he had those same thoughts. But during the day, living with the abuser, he thought he had value unless he did something wrong, or if he said the wrong thing, or he didn't do something on time or good enough. It's an amazing life that a person can have that really goes nowhere, but is a huge learning curve when they have to deal with someone who's self-absorbed, haughty, and they're not open to any agreement, and all they want to do is what they want to do at the expense of other people. But I love having shows with you. I love all the shows that I do. So don't be getting mad at me, people who've been on my show and go like, you love Sarah more than you love me. No, I love everyone that's been on the show. But I'm thinking right now, you said some things about the discard and other things, that once the discard happens, it's like, okay, that should tell you what you need to know. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking of Professor Sam Vaknin when he was on, and he repeatedly kept trying to get me to understand, go no contact. He was said, there is no shot for this. There is no, there's no pill you can take. You gotta get away. If they leave you, you gotta understand you've just been released from that. But when they come back, because they overall in many cases like to come back, we are gonna have to go because it's morning there in Australia, and I told you I was gonna torture you for quite a long time, and I can't do that. Because I need you to be ready to go for episode number 6. And yes. Hint, hint, it will be about, Sarah's got a show planned about manipulation, and that's all I can tell you. There's other stuff here on my paper, but I'm not going to say it. I want to touch on something, because I know there's a video that I'm going to play when we're done, everybody, and some of your information, Sarah, is in the video. I kind of made not a full mini movie, but a few things.
Thank you.
But I want to go over something that we've been asked this before, and I'm gonna ask you again. That someone wanted you to remind them about DAVRO, Darvo. Mm-hmm. Just briefly before we go, touch on that again, Darvo, for those who have watched this before and are taking notes, because I know I know who you are. And they're taking notes and they're learning from the shows that you do. Many of you do that. And thank you for letting me know that you have little NATV, Narc-Abuse TV books from watching us, even when we were on Instagram for our guests, because you can't learn nothing from me. Okay, you got that? All right. So, Darvo, touch on that real quick before we go.
Yes. So similar to the cycle of abuse, Darvo is DARVO, which stands for deny, attack, reverse victim and offender. So D, deny, A, attack, R, reverse, V, victim and offender. So that means that whenever you come to them with an issue, or let's say you're having just a discussion, it doesn't have to be an issue. Sometimes it's literally just a discussion. And the narcissist decides that, no, I am more right than you are, and let's decide to take over this conversation. For example, what they will do is deny what you have said. They will attack you for being wrong, and then they will reverse victim offender when you say, hang on a second, you're being a bit nasty there. So they'll be like, wait a second, how dare you be mean to me? I'm the victim here. Wow. You said something wrong, and now I'm at fault. Oh, dear. So what they do is play the victim. They are very, very sneaky, and they're very, very good at making themselves look like they're the victim and you're the one who has caused a problem for them. And it could be something as simple as having a conversation about who's going to do the dishes, or having a conversation about what you saw on TV that night. It doesn't matter what it is. If someone is hell-bent on being right all the time, like a narcissist is, they will do things such as use word salad to make you confused, to make them seem like they were right and you were wrong. They will use any means necessary to feel like they are in power, like you feel weak this time, and that you will close your mouth, and now accept what they have said is the be all end all, and they are all seeing, knowing, and everything else. So when it comes to Davo, if you're realizing that, hang on a second, this person is denying, or let's use another example. You come to them with a problem. You've said, hey, I really don't like it when you talk to me like that. Immediately, first, let's talk about what's a healthy response. Someone comes to you and says, hey, I don't like when you talk to me like that. Usually, a normal person who considers other people's feelings would say, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize I was doing that, and I'm going to try to be better, and I'll make sure next time that I don't speak to you that way. And then next time you speak to them, they are actually much nicer. That's a person showing empathy, consideration for your emotions and feelings, and that they are taking responsibility for how they respond. They're taking responsibility for their behavior. The opposite end of that is a toxic response would be, no, I didn't speak to you like that. And then you say, hang on a second, you did. And they go, wait, don't talk to me like that. How dare you talk to me like that? I'm so angry at you now. I can't believe that you would come to me and say something that's not true when I didn't even do that. So they're denying it.
Are you calling me a liar as well?
Yeah, you calling me a liar,
You calling
blah,
me a
blah,
liar?
blah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I can't believe you would say something like that. Oh, you must hate me, or something like that. Like, they'll make you feel really, really bad. Then they'll make themselves seem like they're the victim, and you end up saying sorry for something you needed an apology for.
That's crazy. I keep saying that's just crazy.
It's just, you can't even fathom it. Like, if you find yourself apologizing for something that you didn't do, or apologizing for something that you were asking for an apology for, back away, not today.
Back away, not to look at you.
Back away, not today,
Hey,
disco lady.
You know what? That might be a hip hop song coming out real soon from Australia.
It's from The Simpsons. He goes, back away, not today, disco lady.
Okay. You know what? I've seen a few Simpsons posting on your page.
Yes.
Look, thank you for doing that. It is something that may become a regular when we talk every now and then. People like to hear you explain and talk about it. We've talked about so much. I keep hoping to make a recap of everything we've talked about up to these 5 episodes and the other, 6 other shows that we've done already before. You were killing it on Instagram. People, were really loving you even when you were sick and you kept going. But
Thank you.
The next show on manipulation, if you had to give a teaser on our way out. Don't give it away. Whatever you do, don't give it away. Don't you? You know how I am. Don't you dare give it away for free. You gotta
All I'll say is, there are ways that you may not be. Let me start again.
Wait, that was
trying to be all smooth.
I was riveted while you were doing it. What is she going to say next?
There are ways that you may not realize that you're being manipulated.
Wow. Okay. Got my interest up. No, I don't get to find out what all the stuff is before the show. I just get like an outline and, again, a guy with a mic, the woman with the information. We put this together as free internet, TV, mental health, free information for you. We truly appreciate it. I'm going to put a few things up on the screen that has been happening in the comments section. Much love for you, my man of the refrain. Thank you for enjoying the show. and participating and sharing some info. Man, super Sarah. There you
Thank
go.
you.
All right. You better tell him, you better tell your man over there to get you a cape. You need a cape. You need a super Sarah. Super Sarah. Here we all are in the trenches. And I am telling each one of you, there is always hope. Let's roll, man. I like that.
100%.
Man, nice, nice. Positive, informative, and encouraging. Little piece of pie, as I like to say. Very, very good. Big love. You too. Mad respect.
Thank you.
Likewise, my
Me too.
friend. Much respect for you for being here and for putting up with us as we go an hour and 43 minutes. I've taken away from your morning over there in Australia,
It's
but I
okay.
truly
Happy
appreciate
to
it,
be
my
here.
friend. Huh?
Happy to be here.
Oh, thank you. You're awesome. You're awesome. Classy, 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 Sarah. Double binds. I remember those. I am so through with that nonsense. He says he's even choosing to be happy today. A very big statement. A person does have to make a point to choose to be happy. All the sorrows of yesterday, it was a blessing, as it were, in disguise, is what of the refrain is saying. You continue to try to protect the peace of your home and your health as a survivor of cancer, yourself and what you go through physically. And but when it comes to doing these shows, your coaching, when you are on other shows and other things that you've done and making your videos, what is your objective? What is your goal in doing these things? Is it just to vent and get stuff off your chest?
No, the primary thing for me is to share the stories so that other people know that they're not alone. Because for me, and I usually end all of my posts with "You're not alone," because that was the thing for me up until I was about 25. So it was a long time. I thought that this was very normal.
Okay, you should be ashamed of yourself.
What's that?
You look like you're 22.
Oh, I'm 30.
I saw the posting. Yeah, I saw that. It was like,
Thank you,
up
though.
until I was 25, and I'm so old now. You know,
Still get
whatever,
carded.
whatever. I'm your grandfather at this point, but go ahead. Go ahead, my friend. Go ahead.
Yeah, but up until about the age of 25, and like that to me was late. Like I was like, I wish I realized all of this earlier. That something not quite right was going on, and like it was like waking up from a dream when I realized. So sorry, could you repeat the question? Sorry, I got off on track there.
You're not doing this just because you're just an angry person who hates their mom and wants to vent.
That's right. Yeah. So when I came out to do all of this about the age of 25, I thought I was completely alone. I thought that this was normal. I thought that everything that I was experiencing was just a part of a relationship with my mum. And it wasn't until I started reading of other people's experiences and going, whoa, these are like almost on point the same with mine, like almost literally the same. And then the more and more stories I read, I was like, whoa, 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 this is like pathological. Like this is, you could write this down as diagnostic criteria and it's literally the same every time. So I started to realize that I wasn't alone and that I wasn't crazy. Wow, that was a major realization. So the purpose for me by sharing all of this is to help others to realize that they're not alone. Number one, that you're not crazy, that these experiences that you're going through might actually be very similar to other people's experiences. That's why I share these stories. And number three, that you can get help and change your life. Because from where I was back then to where I am right now, just like of the refrain said, it is a blessing in disguise. When you come through the realization, come out the other end. And although all the realizations are sad and frightening, that you realize you've lost a person that you never really had, in the end, you go, thank goodness I realized all of this, because now I'm stronger than ever before. I have more boundaries than I ever had before. I never let people walk all over me, and I'm happy. And I've got, things in my life that I actually want, rather than going, I don't want to do this all the time, having my energy sucked from me, not living the life that I wanted to. Now I am. No one can take that from me now.
Wow.
And that's what I want other people to realize. By sharing all of this, you can do the exact same thing and you don't have to be, in prison anymore.
Yeah. The journey that everyone takes is different and varied, and well, it's personal. You will find more individuals here on our shows at Narc Abuse TV Network, NATV Network, mental health channel, that go beyond just narcissism. Because as you heard right now, people start to share their growth. And that's what we wanted to do from day one, to have these discussions where you will hear not just the yucky stuff, but you start to find out and hear the stories of individuals or about yourself, the juicy stuff inside of you that others were trying to suck out of you and leave you dry. So enough of me. Nobody watches these shows for me, but for my beautiful guests. Oh my goodness, that was like
Of
Count
course
Dracula.
they do. I love your
Yeah.
voice, Paxton.
Well, you know what? Thank you so much. A lot of individuals watch what we're doing, you and I, and all the other shows when they can, but they listen to it more than anything else. And that drives us insane with happiness, because we really try to make the shows where they're good for you to put the headphones in or go work out, do your yard work, and listen to Sarah explain to you, don't give up, don't quit. It's Friday. Enjoy yourself, and don't let someone else take away your peace and your harmony. I'm piggybacking something that I'm about to put up. Here we go. This is for you, Sarah. Here we go. Here we go. Gonna make me cry, Sarah.
Aw.
Love it. Let me tell you, man. Girl be
Thank you.
dropping. She be dropping knowledge and a bunch of emotional support she gives too. The sounds of sanity, harmony. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate
Can
it.
I just add one more thing there?
Yes, please.
To
No,
add
wait.
to,
No, you can't. No, you can't. No. Okay, go ahead. No, go ahead. Go ahead.
Thank you. To add what I last said there about the reason why I was doing this page and why I was sharing those stories as well. I was feeling really guilty actually sharing those stories at first. And then I spoke to my therapist about it, and she actually said that by keeping those secrets to yourself and not telling those stories, you're actually protecting the abuser. And you're perpetuating the secrecy and the isolation and the rigid thinking and the denial. So I'm no longer ashamed of telling those stories, because that's what happened to me, And if that person doesn't like it, well, it's the truth. So you just have to read it and weep, my friend.
Yeah.
So
I love it.
don't ever be
Telling
ashamed.
the story, sharing your story, telling what has happened to you leaves room for you to be empowered and to grab back the life someone else was trying to force upon you or trying to take away from you.
Yeah.
And you've been empowering yourself. And please, anyone that listens to this, hears this, watches, whatever the case may be, look, reach out to Sarah. If you need someone to talk to, reach out to someone. But today, of course, the lady of the hour, the diva of the day is Sarah. Reach out to Sarah. You can find her at Heal the Mom Wound. I've been blessed to get to know you and at least find you on Twitter. And you have your YouTube channel, of course, Instagram. Reach out to her if you need to talk to someone. But whatever you do, reach out to someone if you need to talk to someone. If what you're doing is not working for you now, do not sacrifice your mental health by not speaking to someone. Reach out and talk to somebody. Okay, look, hey, we got to go now of the refrain, but we got to thank you, Paxton. Thank you, Miss De Silva. That sounds like a song. Always, by the way, it is indeed a wonderful way to begin the weekend. Of the refrain says, thank you, my friend. And here's a video to tell everyone who has been here and those who will watch this back later, thank you. And then Sarah, you and I, like always, after any show, I'll talk with you after the show. Everybody, thank you. Sarah?
Thank you so much, everyone.
Thanks for Sarah, we got this down, man. We always like to wave on the way out. So here we go. I'm going to get back over here, everybody. Going to drop you guys a little video in here as our arms start to get tired from waving. Bye. Later, people.